So whether you're celebrating a promotion at work or you've had a great round of golf, that'll pass.
Or a bad round of golf.
It will also pass. And I think it's one of those things that there's always something around the corner. And I think that's why I really sort of leaned into try my best to release the valve a little bit using golf last year. I felt like I was like sort of stumbling a lot of the time, and I think that going out and, like we said, getting rid of technology, concentrating on the game of golf, it helped me release the valve.
All right, Jack Grimmer, welcome to the Golf Yourself Healthy podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for agreeing to come on. And first of all, a word of thanks to the guys at Wycombe Heights for having us here today. We've been treated, to their hospitality, and Jack and I have been hitting a wee bit in one of these bays. We felt right at home, Jack, didn't we? Both been from Aberdeen, a nice shower of rain just right
Here
back.
we are, we come together, and then it's like being back in Aberdeen. There was just a torrential storm, and then it hopefully disappears, and then it's hopefully okay. So it's like 4 seasons in one day, which is basically what Aberdeen is.
Big time, absolutely. Well, speaking of Aberdeen, I'm going to keep on the theme of us both being from Aberdeen for a second. It'll all become clear in a moment. But just to share with you, Jack, in the time I've been doing with this podcast, friends of mine from, say, London or England or Wales, where I live now, will listen and kind of be like, I've had a few Scottish guests on before, and the accent comes out a wee bit for me when I'm doing. So it's not that strong, but I think alongside a fellow Aberdonian, I think when I listen back to this later, I'm probably going to hear myself with a few Aberdonian twangs, but which is no bad thing.
No, it happens.
You've not lost your accent.
Well,
either,
it happens to me all the time when we either sign Scottish players or, like you said, me and you will speak, and then it's a familiar accent, and it brings your accent out in you. And I've been down in England now for 13 years, I think it is, nearly 14 years. So the accent does soften at times. Either it comes back strong when you're angry on the football pitch or you're in an argument or something. But apart from that, it softens up a little bit until you meet somebody that is from Aberdeen or Scotland in general, and then the accent comes back strong.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about you, but I think I always find it when I'm with sort of one of my own sort of thing, I sort of I'm more comfortable and more at home as well.
Exactly,
so I think in time throughout this conversation, I'll probably tell the story of how you and I met and how we've ended up sat in these chairs today, because we talked about quite a few cool things on that flight from London to Aberdeen where I sat next to you, not least to mention that you were wearing an open hat. So that was, before I recognised who you were, I thought this guy's a golfer or he likes his golf, so I need to get chatting to him about golf, but we'll get to that. But anyway, I asked you as a sort of a bit of an icebreaker for this conversation to get your favourite club out the bag. Like so, and that is, what have you got in your hands there?
I have a 60 degree. The most, I have the 60 because I find it's one of my, maybe my most frustrating club. But the one that when you're around the green and you connect well, the flop shots and things, I think it's such a good club. I do. When you hit it well, I think it brings that nice feeling that not many other clubs, maybe a driver gives me the same feeling when you lash one down the middle. But this takes a lot more delicacy than a driver, which is not always part of my life and my football game, which is, I think it's one of my, like I said, it's one of my most frustrating club, which also then makes it one of my favourite.
Love that. Yeah, no, I was saying to you when you picked it and you chose a 60, I love that because I love a 60 as well. I can relate to you on this sort of when you pull it off. It's kind of it can be a harder, especially with chipping and flop shots and stuff. But from what I'm hearing, that you like a challenge.
Yes, I do. That's why the pesky game of golf is sort of ruffling my feathers from time to time. But I think the game is somewhat summed up. I find it summed up by this club in the sense that you sometimes make easy shots difficult with this club, and you try go for greatness and the look and the feel because if it comes off it'll all be worth it. But then when you thin it off the back of the green and you have to try and hit the same shot but maybe a pitch or a sand, that then you're like just thinking to yourself, why didn't I do that in the first place? And I think that's the beauty of it, is because but it's all worth it if you do hit the right shot and you connect well. And I think that's the beauty of it, is the frustration that comes out, and you have to hold your temperament, and that's why the game is so different to many others.
Yeah, for sure. Those of you watching this on YouTube, so I've chosen mine. Jack asked me what mine was, and I've got my 4 hybrid here. And first of all, folk are going to see my Aberdeen FC club head on there. It. So, and before I talk about the club itself, Jack, like I again, since I've moved away from Aberdeen, somehow my passion for the club and for the city has actually intensified.
Absolutely, I agree.
I'm like, it's like a badge of identity kind of thing. It's a talking point as well.
Yeah.
Like, and I think beyond that, I just love having stuff on or in my golf bag that people can look at and go, oh, that's a bit different.
Yeah.
Because I can assure you, you don't see many Aberdeen fans in rural Wales where I live these days.
I can imagine, yeah.
But the 4 hybrid, I like this just because it's, especially at the moment where I don't trust my driver. So getting off the tee helps you a bit, and it makes a nice wee ping sound as well when you catch it nice. So that's my favourite club. But you were telling me earlier as well that in terms of the squad of players at Wycombe Wanderers now, you've probably got more golfers than you've ever had before. So what's the dynamic? Like, do you get out and play with some of your teammates, or do you prefer to have Jack time? Like, do you play on your own? No, how do you play? Like, what do you want to get out of golf when you play it? Do you want to just play it casually, competitively, with people, with teammates, not with,
We, like you said, we have a good amount of golfers at the club. I think players that have been and gone still live locally, so we still arrange to play sometimes on days off, which is good because it's a great way of catching up with people. I think I love the scramble. I think for me, I think maybe it's a football thing. I love that you're working together with players, and that if one of you misses a drive but the other one picks up the slack, then that person then putts. I think everyone offers something different. I think I love when you are. I mean, we do sometimes play, the odd competitive game against each other, but I think maybe it does come from a football background. I think that you like to feel part of the team and that you're doing something, and it also takes the pressure off your shot sometimes. If somebody lashes one right down the middle, then you can rock up and have less pressure, which again helps. And I think for me, that's my favourite sort of the way of playing golf is probably the favourite is to scramble, because like I said, the element of teamwork and it keeps it light, it keeps it fun, it keeps it enjoyable, and it's funny because no matter what level of golfer you're playing with, I think everyone has something to offer in a scramble. I think normally the player that thinks they're the worst ends up putting the best putt of the day, or because the pressure is off. And I think that's, it's probably the most underspoken thing. I think men in general probably don't speak about mental health in general, but I think it's probably I find the most unspoken thing is just how helpful the game of golf can be.
Yeah, I love a scramble format. I totally agree with everything that you said. And I just think it's, especially if you're new to golf as well, which can be very intimidating. It's one that when you feel like you've got eyes on you at the first tee or whatever. Like, it takes the pressure off.
And that's the thing. I think I've played in big matches, and I've played in front of big capacities and big stadiums, and nothing compares to if you're playing in a 2-ball and you catch up to a 4-ball and they're saying you can play through. I swear it's the worst feeling ever. And that's, to me, is why I love it as well, because I understand why it can be daunting. I remember when I was younger, and you would turn up to the golf course, and there's a lot of people and they've got all the gear, and you look and you feel a bit out of place, and I understand that part of it. But it's when you then get past that, and you realise probably everyone feels the same, and it's totally fine. But when you get past that, it's nothing compares to even one person watching me tee off that I don't know adds that layer of stress that I'm not used to, because I'd never do it in a competitive environment. And I think the beauty is that everyone feels the same, and that's why if I ever let anyone play through, I just try and look at my golf bag or look away, because I know how it feels. But it's always one of the brilliant moments, I think.
When did you get into golf?
So I my granny was actually probably the one that was my earliest memories of golf. She was a member, along with my granddad, at Cullen golf course in Moray in the north of Scotland.
Is that really quirky?
It's so quirky. It's like a par 63.
Yeah.
You go through mountains and cliffs, and
Yeah.
it's a links
Yeah.
course. It's right on the coast, and it's scorched probably, and it's really firm probably 9 months out of the year. It's a quirky game of golf. I'll give you that. And I've taken a lot of friends up there in my time and played there, and they just say it's like it's golf, but it's not golf. It's like crazy golf basically. But I find that is one of the best courses for the variety of shots that you hit. Sorry, and that was my earliest sort of introduction into golf was my granny, and I think it was one of the things that kept her going. She stopped playing now, but she was always a very, very avid golfer and wants us to be the same. And when I speak to her, she was loving the fact I was taking friends up to play at such a unique course. And at Wycombe we had American owners, and they love Scottish golf, and they love it. And it's just so different to a lot of the things that you can get in America or in England. And it's definitely a different way of playing golf, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Something you were saying a minute ago when you spoke about the Scramble format and being a team player. You're a leader of a team.
Yeah.
You're the captain of Wycombe Wanderers. How would you describe yourself as a leader and your style?
I think people, firstly, I think football's one of those things that everyone thinks you have this amazing life, but I've noticed since taking on leadership roles and, like you said, becoming captain, that it's very stressful. I think you feel a lot of the weight of an entire club somewhat on your shoulders at times, because when things are going well, everyone takes the credit, and when things aren't going well, they tend to look in one person's direction, and that's the captain. And I think in terms of leadership styles, I think I've played with a lot of great captains. I've learnt from a lot of great captains. I think the generation I grew up with were the firm sort of action first, and the real stature, big personalities, big leaders. And I think I like to lead by example, if I'm being honest. I think I learned very early on that motivation and discipline are two very different things, and I used to think that all the captains I played with were the most motivated people in the world, and only when I got closer to these people I realised that their motivation, just as people in life in general, and it's very highly linked to the game of golf, that motivation continuously just went like that, but their discipline stayed the same the whole way through. And it's something that I try my best to pride myself on, that some days you don't want to do the right thing, or you don't want to do that extra exercise or that extra whatever. And same with golf, you don't want to do the practice, or you don't want to go out, or whatever it is. I feel like the discipline remained the same the whole time, and I feel like as I've became captain, it's one of those important things that people, they look to you to lead by example. And I find that that's one of the biggest things. I think regardless of how the team does, I think if I'm doing the best I can and holding the values that I know that I was raised by, I think that's the best you can ask for. But I think that another thing I try my best to stick by is you're firm on the rules but good to the people. And I think you have to maintain standards, but if you can do that in a way that you are kind to the people, then that's where relationships are built, and that's when you get the best out.
You were saying a minute ago as well about mental health, and I wanted to ask you about how you see that being talked about and taken seriously in your line of work these days.
Yeah, massively. I think the change has been quite extraordinary over my career. I think if you were to go back 10 years ago, it wasn't a conversation in the changing room, I'll be honest. I think it's now it's someone of all ages has the conversation. It's not just the older players. The youth, I think, coming through now are very, very mental health aware. They want to talk about it. They want to ask questions about it. They want to sort of listen to your experience. I think it's the society that we live in now. I think that it's a massive talking point for everyone. And I think it's a great thing in my opinion. I think basically before 10 years ago you were just told to get on with it, and the old terms man up used to get thrown around religiously, and I think now thankfully we're in a different place, and I think it's my job as captain and as leader is to check on people, and I think it's something I spend a lot of my time doing. That, you know, the little conversations that you have that no one will ever be privy to, but they go a long way with people. And I think it's a lot of those responsibilities that maybe people don't see that, you know, take up probably 90% of your time. And I'm not exactly someone that I think, especially last season, struggled to leave it all at home, leave it all at work. Sorry, I think when people have issues, I think I'm the first to try and want to fix it for them, because that's, you know, partly my role, but then partly helps towards the team dynamic, I think. So it's but it's definitely, like you said, a conversation that happens a lot more in society, which is, it's obviously going to be beneficial. I think the more it's spoken about, the more, you know, people can get the help that they need. Yeah,
definitely. Goal setting, right?
Yeah.
If I'm honest, this question particular, I mean, there's quite a few that I've been relishing asking you, but you know, I said to you earlier on when we were hitting balls on the range, I said, you know, I've heard you talking about you know, this new season and with your current manager saying trust the process. Now that expression, trust the process, you hear it from time to time, you know, in corporate world, in sports world or whatever, but it got me to thinking about, and I was saying to you, after Rory McIlroy won the Masters earlier this year, there was a clip from a podcast that he was on that came out that had been recorded before that, I'm pretty sure, which has gone viral now, where he talks about process goals versus outcome goals. So do you want to speak a bit about, you know, the process that you refer to, and then how that kind of, I'd love to hear almost about goal setting in the football context maybe, and then if you've got golf goals as well.
I think it is something that we've sort of really dialed into this season. Has been about, our gaffer always says to us to be obsessed with the process, and the outcome will follow. Now, it's easier to say that when the outcomes are following, I'll be honest. I think we haven't had the best start to the season this season, but that then it's almost what we're saying about, you don't want, society doesn't want the pain before they get to the end goal. And I think we are getting a bit of the pain this season because things haven't just clicked, and I think that's when you see the real test of people, when things aren't going well and things aren't clicking, and it's what you do in that moment. Now, the beauty of that is that we found we have the process to fall back on. We discussed earlier when we were lashing balls straight down the middle, I'll add.
Don't know about you. I mean, you were puring balls down the middle. To be fair, I'll claim the lashing.
But no, we spoke about Justin Rose.
Justin Rose,
and his. I love the process he has. It's very visual. You can see what
pre-shot
he's doing.
routine.
Yeah, the pre-shot routine goes through, and you know, I'm sure other players have things in their head that they do, but I think you can tell when things aren't going well. It must be a comfort to have that to fall back on. Now, we have that a lot, especially this season at Wycombe, about being obsessed with the process. And the manager often says, whether we win or lose on a Saturday, you come in on Monday morning and you do the same thing again, and you start the process again. And then if you win or lose on the Tuesday, you come in on the Wednesday or the Thursday and you start the process again. And I think it's such a... It is, I'll be honest, at times it's a comfort, because you know you can stick to the process, and you have to believe in the process, don't get me wrong. You have to believe and trust that it's the right thing to do. But I think when you get infatuated with the outcome, like last season when you mentioned we got beat from Charlton, and that could have been deemed as a complete failure because we didn't achieve what we did. But the club had achieved its record points tally in the history at that level. Now, that isn't done by simply winning and losing matches. That's done by day in, day out, doing an element of processes every single day when no one is there, no one is watching you. You're getting up every day, you're tired, but you're doing the same thing over and over again. And then all anyone sees is the end goal. And all anyone sees is the promotion or whatever it is that follows. And I think golf's definitely the same thing. I think we spoke earlier as well about how I couldn't believe the pressure that some of the players are under, and how they even get their hands and arms to be in sync to move to hit a ball. They all fall back on processes, and I think it's something that I'm very confident will stand us in good stead this season, is that we have those processes to fall back on. So win, lose or draw, we won't be outcome focused or dominated, which, you know, in the longer run hopefully stands us in good stead.
I always think Eric Ten Hag used to say that at Man United as well, like trust, that's where I'm thinking of it, like trust the process.
Yeah.
A lot of people would be like, yeah, but what's the process? So like, could you just even, because you and I were speaking earlier about how, and you've just said it, like fans don't always appreciate the work that goes on behind the scenes to drive an outcome.
Yes.
So what educate us here? What would be an example of a process that you would work on in a football-related context?
So in a football-related situation, I think so win or lose on the Saturday, you come in on the Monday morning, you evaluate the game in all its flaws and all its beauty and everything that you're happy with, more so the stuff that you're not happy with. Training then is the same. The gym works exactly the same. You then go into the gym for your session. You'll do the training session on the pitch. You'll then do the gym in the afternoon, and then you'll come in on Tuesday and do the same thing. And people think it's a great lifestyle, and I'm sure golf's exactly the same. Golf, to me, is like the top stars are somewhere on a golf course where no one is watching, and they are practicing on the smallest of detail to try gain 0.2%.
Yeah, marginal gains,
Marginal gains, and I think football's exactly the same. It's portrayed as this luxury lifestyle, and the reality is it can almost be quite mundane at times, and I think the better you get, the more mundane it should get, because you should be doing the same thing over and over again. And I think then you build up towards the next game, sort of Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. The process is then just slightly tweaked based off who you're playing, which in golf, obviously, thankfully you don't technically have, but it's probably more the course that you have. And then you prepare for the game, essentially really dial in on Friday, play the game Saturday, and as you say, whether you win or lose, which I think is an important thing, because I've found when you win games in football, I'm happy for about 30 seconds after the final whistle, and then it turns to relief, and then it turns to the next game. And by the time I find that I've walked off the pitch clapping the fans, my mind is already thinking, what am I saying to the boys when I come in the changing room? How am I going to act? What is the thoughts for the next game? And it's literally, you work all week for potentially 30 seconds of happiness. And
sounds like what Scotty Scheffler said after...
I never have... honestly, when Scotty Scheffler said that, it related to me so much. And I was like, well done for coming out and saying it on such a grand stage after winning such a great tournament, after playing so well. You should be on top of the world. And it was such an interesting thing that no one had really came out and said before. And I think it's obsession with the process for, like we say, 30 seconds of happiness, and then you start the process again.
And I think what was so important about what he said and what you're saying now is, again, there was a reaction to what he said at the time in the media and stuff where people were almost losing their mind. They were like, what? How could you, to your point, because people look at professional athletes and go, they get paid loads and they've got this, they drive nice cars, yada, yada, yada. But in reality, like, it's, he was just telling the truth, right? It's like fundamentally that it's, and I'm sure actually if a lot of us put our mind to it, we can all relate to that, really.
Yeah.
Like in our day jobs, if you get a promotion, you've been working towards a promotion, and then you get it. You're ecstatic for a while. You tell your wife about it, and you get a pay rise and stuff. But then, if it, like within hours or days or whatever, you're like, right, it becomes normal.
Exactly, and that's the thing. It's not unique to sports. It's not. No. It's every working person out there. I think you will find that. The elation is not as, it's never as, and I guess the old saying is it's never too high, never too low. I think is always something I really try to stick by in football. In life in general, I think with football and definitely golf, I think sports in general, that lows are guaranteed and the highs are for the 1%. I think of people that get genuine highs. I think it is something that the average, like every working person will know that when they've thought that the promotion that they're going for or the next step will sort the problems, that I'll be happy when, and then they get there, and then they're like, right, well, what next, or what? Okay, and that's exactly the same.
And I said to you earlier, that is exactly why our strapline for Golf Yourself Healthy is embrace the rough, cherish the fairway.
Yeah.
Because realistically, those, especially if you're an average golfer like me, you'll be in the rough more often than you're in the fairway. But in life, right, we go through tough things all the time, and actually it is important that when you do experience the highs, you enjoy them, but have a realistic outlook on it.
Yeah, I think it was weirdly, I think it was Tom Hanks once said that like this and it's something that I always stuck with me, because through the highs and the lows, he always said that this too shall pass. So whether it's like you're celebrating a promotion at work, or you've had a great round of golf, that'll pass.
Or a bad round of golf.
It will also pass. And I think it's one of those things that there's always something around the corner. And I think that's why I really sort of leaned into trying my best to release the valve a little bit using golf last season, was because I felt like I was like sort of stumbling a lot of the time. And I think that going out and, like we said, getting rid of technology, concentrating on the game of golf, it helped me release the valve a little bit, which probably in the long term, because when you're stumbling, it's got no longevity to it. I think the more you can embrace a habit, and you mentioned earlier about habits and daily routines and things, and I am big on that. And I think because I find like when everyone just buries their head, and there'll be a lot of people listening that will bury their head, they'll work, they've got families, they've got bills to pay, and it feels like it's never ending and it's constant. And I'm massive on trying to release the valve as often as you can, so you don't get to that boiling point.
Yeah.
And even when you maybe don't feel like you need it, like go for the walk, go for the game of golf, go to the driving range, go to a putting green, go to anything just to release the valve a little bit. And so you don't get to that point where you feel like you're almost such a pressure cooker.
Yeah, you remind me of an episode we had with this podcast. It was with a guy called Dr. Phil Hopley, and I encourage anyone to listen to it. So he is one of the leading mental health experts that works on the DP World Tour, for example, and in Formula One and various other elites. How can we mere mortals relate to professional sports people, for example? Like, 'cause again, a lot of people listening or watching this will go, yeah, but Jack's a professional footballer, how am I going to really relate to him? But actually, something you just said that he said, Phil, was athletes pay themselves to recover, is what he was saying. Yeah. Like, they talked about releasing that pressure valve, so it's before you burn out. So I think if anyone could take away anything, it is like you absolutely have to have your health routines and things in place to look after it, because if you don't, then it's going to catch up on you.
That's the thing. I speak to my friends all the time, and it's funny, like we were saying about how the conversations around mental health has changed a lot. Like two of my best friends will often message and say, like, how are you boys doing? How's your mental health? And they'll check in, and that was never a question that we got asked 5-10 years ago. And I think it's, in terms of being relatable as well, I think it's like we discussed it as well about training for post-football. I'm looking at things in property and becoming a mortgage advisor, and I'll still be doing the same things when I'm a mortgage advisor, because I know that like just how beneficial I found it, and it's not something generated to just sport, it's life in general. And I think that's the thing, that's the beauty. I think it's people in sport often, I do have the luxury, I'll be honest, of I constantly think how I feel, and I constantly feel how's my body, how's my mind, how's everything connected, how's it feeling, because I need to be able to perform on a Saturday. Now I do understand that isn't relatable to, say, myself in 10 years time as a mortgage advisor, but I know the benefit it has gave me while I'm playing football, and I know the benefit it will give my mind in 10 years time when I'm retired from playing the game. And I'll still
You're playing a long game here, really.
Yes, and I know that when I'm retired from sport, and say it's property, or say it's mortgages, or say it's something completely different, like a fireman, whatever it is, I know the benefit of taking the time when I need to release the valve. And I know that will be difficult, and I know people will be listening being like, I have kids, I have a job, there's life's pressures, I completely understand that. But you're doing it for yourself. And I think whether it is half an hour at the range or whether it is, because I understand as well, 4 hours of golf is difficult to get sometimes. But the value is you can't put a number, you can't attach a numeric value to just what it's doing for you. And having been in really stressful situations and stressful periods of my life, it is always something I've fallen back on that I feel like is how to get through.
Brilliant. Just rounding out in the goal setting thing in the golf context, right? So I think of, if I have a goal, an outcome goal of getting my handicap to 10, let's say, for example, that's great to have that goal, but I've got to have my process goals that back it up. So for example, realistically, if you want to play golf at that level, half of, just using this as an example, half of your shots will probably be with your putter. If you're two putting so like I would work on my putting, perhaps as a priority, as a process, and maybe the technique of the setup and everything to get there. So, I mean, actually, I think for me, like, I've got mixed feelings about having handicaps because I think there's an obsession with the number. I'm trying to get single figures. So I was going to ask you, like, have you got any golf-related goals that you're working towards?
I think, ironically, I think I would love to be a single digit. I think before, in the summertime, I was around 16, and it was my first true handicap. It was the first time with England Golf I'd properly posted a handicap, and then I learned the sort of focus on a number, and rightly so. I mean, people love the handicap, but I would love to, in terms of an objective, I'd love to be a single digit, but I also understand not to get too obsessed with a number.
Because when you get there, how are you going to feel?
Well,
it goes back to this thing we were just saying. Like, you'll feel ecstatic for a wee while, but then...
And I think one of my biggest... Because when you get to 9, you want to get to 8, then you want to get to 7, then you want to get... And that's just what we were discussing earlier. And I feel like funnily enough, one of my biggest things was not getting so frustrated with... And it's never an outward frustration. In football, it's always an outward frustration. You can tell and see in my body language, you can hear in my voice. In golf, obviously the etiquette around the golf course, it's very much in your head. And for me, I think you realise, I think there's a unrealistic expectation for yourself that when you put a shot from, say, 100 yards within 20 feet, that's a great shot, it's a good shot. And I think for me, it was realigning my expectation. And that's one of my goals in golf, is to realign my expectation that not every shot, like obviously not every shot is going to be where exactly you want it. So enjoy that, but realise it's still a good shot and loosen the frustration a little bit, because inevitably you're going to play better when you're looser and happier and feel less pressure. And I think it's realigning expectation is definitely a goal that I want to get better at, and I think it is something I actually am getting better at, and it's standing me in good stead, unsurprisingly.
It's that word expectation again. You know, I was saying to you earlier, like expectations of fans, expectations of yourself. My golf coach showed me this thing on his whiteboard he's got in his studio of how on the Pro Tour, like the percentage green in regulation from certain yardages, and obviously, as you would expect, like from 100 yards downwards or and in or whatever, these guys are making 90% of those. Yeah. But when you go out to about the 200 yard shots into the green, it's down to about 50%. So again, I can so easily stand over a 200 yard shot and be like, I've got that in the bag. Yeah. Trusty hybrid kind of thing. And then I duff it. And then, but if I remind myself, no, if I'm making that green, then, you know, it's just cherish it, you know.
That's it, exactly. And in terms of, I think goals for the golf as well, I think even the consistency of, because people would say like, I want to get to single digits, but then what does that actually look like? What does that actually involve? And again, part of the reason I use golf is to switch off and try, and so you don't want to attach too much pressure and stress and expectation on something that you're using to catch up with friends, and that's why you said you play in quite the casual sense sometimes, because, and the Scramble format is perfect for that. And I think, but we all like to have maybe something to chase or something to look towards, and we'd like that. But I think it's then, when was the last time you practiced your putting? And I really practiced my putting, you know what I mean? Like actually just try to go to a putting green and take it from all different angles. And you know, you normally just do a couple before it and then get out.
Few token ones. Yeah,
exactly. But so what does it actually look like, and what is the process involved? And I think that's when you get down to the nitty of it, it's putting the, like we said, the process goals instead of the outcome goals is definitely
for sure
the right foot forward.
Right then, Jack, the back nine.
The back nine. Love this.
First time we've ever done this in the Golf Yourself Healthy podcast. So this is quick fire, fun, 9 questions for you, right? So first of all, if you could only ever play one round of golf again in your life, which course would it be?
See, I would struggle not to say Cullen because it holds...
I was hoping you would say Cullen.
Yeah, because of obviously the worldwide courses, but I'd struggle not to say Cullen because it's a beautiful course, quirky course, and has so many cherished memories.
A dream 4-ball consisting of footballers only.
Footballers only. Could I do a football manager as well?
Yeah, of course you could, yeah.
So Sir Alex Ferguson would have to be in there. I would say one of them might throw you actually. I'll say George Best to bring the personality.
Mm.
And because he was my idol growing up and he was an Aberdeen icon and legend, there's a few I could pick. I'll say Russell Anderson.
Love that.
Randomly, because he was that captain and that I looked up to when I was younger.
He's a golfer as well, that you know of?
I don't know, but if you're keen,
if he's listening exactly, or watching, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And then he's done some very interesting stuff after football as well, in finance and things. So it's again, that was my first sort of captain I looked up to when I was younger.
Dream 4-ball consisting of professional golfers.
Rory McIlroy has to be in there. I think I'd struggle not to say Tiger Woods because he has to just be in there. But I would love to go because Tiger will probably be in everyone's. Rory would be in there, and maybe after the Masters I'll go Bryson as well. Bryson DeChambeau.
That would be a hell of a 4-ball.
But I feel like golf now has great characters. I feel like social media and things has really helped project that.
What's your least favourite club in the bag?
My least favourite club is, I would say, and this is so random, and I don't know if people would say this, is my 7-iron. Because I always feel like it's a club I just stay away from. I don't know why. I'd rather would overhit my 8 or really underhit my 6. And I don't know why it's a club that I just never really... and it's so in my head. I understand it is so in my head. And this is, again, as we've complimented the game of golf a lot on this podcast, I feel like this is another reason it's something that I should maybe become a golf goal for me, is to get a better relationship with my 7-iron. Because it has to be in your head, because it's literally just the same club as a 6 or an 8, but slightly tilted differently. But yeah, I'll say my 7.
Love that. I've actually just remembered one that I had. It's not on here, but I had thought of asking it, and that thing you was telling me makes me think about it. Are you coached or self-coached?
I had lessons really young, and then I haven't had lessons for a very long time, and it's always something I want to get around to. Not to get a massive coaching, just to give me a few pointers and tips, and that is fine. And then I think it will help me. But no, so technically I'm self-coached, I think. Well, my granny coached me most of the time, to be fair. So yeah, self-coached though, most
Brilliant.
of the time.
Love it, Jack. Walk or buggy?
So in the summer, normally walk, but any time throughout the football season, I hate to say it's normally a buggy, because just I have really bad calves at times, so I don't want to sound too soft, but normally it's a buggy. Yeah.
Cool. I feel you've touched on this a wee bit already. I'm going to ask it anyway. Score tracking, digital or analog?
Both, but because we do a card, but
Yeah.
it's just, I think, more for if we're doing scrambles and things like that. But I just don't think you can there's some vintage about golf, and I think this scorecard with the little pencil is that element of vintage that just should hopefully never go out the game.
Pre-round warm-up yes or no? And if yes, what is it?
No, I'm not too bad. I mean, I'm not one of those players that can just turn up. I've played with players that some of my friends will turn up 2 minutes before tea time, go on the first tee, and then whack one straight down the middle, and that's just it. But I would need at least, but I don't know whether it's the football thing, just a little bit of movement and mobility, like we said before about the pitch, and just a little few, slight movements. So I would say yes, I need a warm up because my body's not quite as young as it used to be. And I know I'm only 31, but in football, I think that feels old to me. But just slight mobility, movement at the back and things, because, even a sportsman like myself would go out, whack a driver, and something might go in my back. So I think just a slight warm-up is needed.
Fair dues. On-course nutrition, what's your snack of choice?
Well, normally we've played at a course recently that has really good. It's Sutton Green. It's about an hour and a bit from here, and then really good halfway house with sausage rolls and things, which is just perfect for halfway round. But then normally, apart from that, it's normally just protein bars and things like that.
Fair.
But it is something I've tried to. It's a funny question, and I don't want to drag out the answer, but it's funny, something that I'm trying to cut back on because it's so easy to snack a lot on a golf course because you're constantly moving and sweating and thinking about the shots and stuff. So it's something I've tried to cut back on, but mostly protein bars. Yeah.
I love that you said sausage roll in there, by the way. You're
sausage
making me
roll,
feel better about myself.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to the Belfry before?
Yeah.
The sausage rolls at the halfway house at the Belfry, at the Brabazon course, are tremendous.
Because it's something we were meaning to play next summer. Because ironically, one of the workers there is a Wycombe fan, so he said he would welcome us back because we stayed before we played Birmingham one time.
Yeah,
and it's a stunning setup.
Yeah,
stunning setup. Like it's just level. There's levels to the game, and that is certainly a high one.
Yeah. All right, last one. Which would hurt more, a pulled calf in your case, or slicing your drive into the trees in front of your mates?
Well, I have done the pulled calf twice and sliced my driver many a time in front of it. So the pulled calf felt like I'd been shot in the leg, which was tough. But the ego takes a big dent when you slice one into the trees. So I'll have to go with the slice, yeah, definitely. Especially when you're first up on the tee with everyone watching and people you don't know watching. Yeah. Not a nice feeling.
Brilliant. Right, well, Jack, we're going to round it out there. I think, if anything, the setup that we've got here, almost, I mean, if you need another career after football, then punditry might suit you as well, because it's almost like we're at a commentator's table here right now, kind of thing. But it's been a brilliant conversation, Jack.
It has been, yeah. Thank you very much for having me, because I do. It's a great thing. I do genuinely, like we discussed on the plane, which was, I think it just immediately hit some notes with me that resonated quite well, and that, like we said, and it is important to stress, I think it's not linked to sport, and it's not linked to sports people in general or athletes or whoever. It's that's why I love the game so much, and the mental side of the game is because everyone tries their hand at it, and it is something that I immediately, when we spoke about it on the plane, was something I was interested in, because it's such a good agenda to set, and it's such a good thing to talk about. And for everyone listening, it's hopefully they picked one little thing out of the conversation that they can take with them and think about, and but thank you very much for having me.
I'm sure they've picked up more than one thing. Loads of gold nuggets in there. Cheers, Jack.
Top man, mate. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Cheers.